How about now? Now can you hear me? That should have been fixed beforehand, but this is not a high production value show. Anyways, welcome. This is Adam with Arcade Heroes. I'm an arcade operator out of Salt Lake City, Utah, where I also have been running the Arcade Heroes website for many, many years, and been covering the industry from a journalistic point of view as well as an operator point of view. And I'm currently coming to you from my arcade, so that's where there might be some background noise. Depends on the noise cancellation of the microphone. I may have to stop at some instances to help somebody out, although as of this time, all my games are on, so I only if somebody needs like tokens or something do we have to do that. But if there's any other issues with the stream, I did do a test yesterday to hopefully work out the bugs, but hopefully everything's doing good from here. So just going to jump into it. Usually I do these previews a little earlier in the day, but it was kind of just scrambling to finish this post that's on arcadeheroes.com right now. Also, Ted, thank you very much for your help on this. Couldn't have got it done without you, and so very much appreciated. But also appreciated to everybody that sent me information as to what is going to be at the show. Now, if you're new to the arcade business, one thing here. How's it going? Good. Actually, get a shipment in of some stuff for my arcade here, so that's nice. right. That's actually for a bulk vending machine. Those are those little things you oftentimes find in front of grocery stores, where you have like little capsules and prizes, and so just getting a restock on stuff, which is good before I leave for the show. But anyways, if you're new to arcades, I know there's maybe some people that just discovered the channel through the Resident Evil 2 Deadshot location test footage. Welcome. Yes, there are some who sometimes come in and start begging for console ports and whatever, and I'll just lay this out very simply, and I won't spend a lot of time on this unless in the chat you guys really want to discuss it, but the arcade industry does exist. It's not dead. The view that there's only like one arcade per country, which is kind of something that some commenter said on the Resident Evil video, is asinine because it's just not true. There's thousands, tens of thousands of venues out there that can have arcade machines in them, like the one that I'm standing in. Yes, not every single one is like a mom and pop sort of thing. There's a lot of corporate places, a lot of chains out there. Chuck E. Cheese's takes up a lot of venues. Dave & Buster's has hundreds of locations. Main Event. Here locally, a lot of states have local chains as well. Like in Utah, there's Fat Cats, which has locations in Utah, Idaho, Arizona. We have another one here called Boondocks and a couple of other chains. And there's lots of arcades out there. And so this notion that seems to come from, I don't know if it's Reddit or IGN or Kotaku, like that sort of viewpoint on the arcade industry is that, oh yeah, there's only one or two out there. Anytime that somebody comes up with a new game, they're just making it for Jeff Bezos. Like, really, that's dumb to think. It's like, do you really think that somebody would spend millions of dollars to make one game for a billionaire? Come on. And so, yeah, when you see all these brand new games and all the brand new games that we're going to talk about in this video here, they're made for these locations. You can have games that can sell over 10,000 units. No, it's not quite like it was back in 1981 or whatever, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, we're still a lot more alive than the video rental business or the payphone business or things like that. And so, yes, there is an industry. Yes, millions of dollars are poured into it. It generates billions of dollars in revenue. And so that's where these games are coming from. That's who these games are being made for. Yeah, Round 1 USA has a lot of locations. And so it's like there's a lot of arcades out there. I can sympathize if you don't have an arcade near you. I understand that sucks. But just because your situation may not have an arcade venue right next to you doesn't mean that that's the case for everybody else on the planet. You know, you have to have a little bit broader of a viewpoint than something that myopic, okay? So, sorry if I sound a little frustrated. It's just because I've been dealing with this for like 20 years now, with people saying this sort of nonsense. And to me, when I say it's economically illiterate, that's because it is. It's because you really don't know what's going on. And sites like IGN, Kotaku, and whatnot, they just don't pay attention to a lot of stuff that goes on out there. Sure, they'll cover a location that closes, like there was this location that closed down in the UK recently where they weren't even open for 6 months, and somehow they got all this international media attention. It's like, I've been sitting here for 17 years and I have a hard time bringing people in. But, you know, I still have been operating for 17 years, so I've been able to bring enough people in to pay the bills. But also I have brand new games. I know it might be a little bit hard to see because my camera's dark and my venue's dark, but like I have a Maximum Tune 5DX, a Cruise and Blast over there. There's a Soda Slam sitting there, a Luigi's Mansion Arcade, a House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn, the Walking Dead Arcade, Jurassic Park. Just got a brand new pinball machine of Dungeons and Dragons in. And so, yes, there's new stuff. And that's what we're talking about here. IAAPA is a giant trade show. It's kind of like the E3 of the arcade industry. And it's where a bunch of new brand new games are going to be popping up, which will be available in venues. Some of them will be available right now for venues to grab if they have the money, whereas others will be launching sometime in 2026. So basically, this is a preview for 2026. And so let's get to it, because otherwise I'm going to lose my voice if I spend too long ranting. So if I'm ranting too much, you guys can stop me in the chat. But for those watching, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And let's go. And I'll also try and keep my eyes on the chat here so that we can so I can see if there's any questions that you guys have about anything that I'm going to be covering that you want me to maybe spend some extra focus on, or if you have any questions that aren't covered by what we go through here. So, starting off, raw thrills, Betson. So, on the blog post, or if you go to arcadeheroes.com, it should be the top post there. You can click on it. You can go through this stuff at your leisure. But what we like to do is, since we do have some advertisers for the site, we like to give them the upfront coverage. Otherwise, everything's alphabetized. But by doing this, it gives them a boost and kind of a thank you for them putting some money into the site so that we can keep things going. We've had some costs that we've had to deal with this year with our servers and stuff like that, upgrading capacity and things of that nature. And hello, Aman Tahir. And so, yeah, that's where we've got these guys up front. So they paid for it, so yeah, might as well. So, raw thrills, Betson. If you were to go to IAAPA.org and you go to the IAAPA Expo, you can pull up the show floor map and you can go through that and look through it. You'll see it fills up the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. I should also throw in there, in case you're not familiar with what IAAPA is, it always happens the week before Thanksgiving in the United States, which is usually like the third week of the month, because Thanksgiving is always the fourth week of the month, of November, sorry. And it literally fills up the entire convention center floor. It equates to about 10 miles worth of walking. Like if you were to literally walk every aisle from north to south, east to west, they say it takes up 10 miles worth of walking. And then they also have exhibits on the outside because IAAPA covers not just the arcade industry, they also cover the theme park industry. And so oftentimes there's brand new roller coaster rides announced at this show. Water parks have their own area. There's a lot of inflatables that show up there. There's lots of rides that would go into a theme park that aren't exactly roller coasters, but they're those rides that you'd stand in line for at a theme park, where it's just something like, I don't know, like the pirate ship that swings back and forth, or swinging chairs, or all those sorts of things that are not arcades, but again, for theme parks. And so IAAPA, again, just covers all those bases, plus arcades. But if you were to go to the map and you were to search for, say, raw thrills, you won't find raw thrills there. That's because they always have their setup done through a distributor company called Betson, which has been around, I think, for 90 years now. They're the longest running distribution company. So for an industry that's dead, pretty impressive that you have a distributor that's been around that long and is still doing pretty well and generating revenue. In fact, Betson has 3 booth spaces. They're numbers 515, 615, and 815. And again, it's almost all raw thrills product at the Betson booth. Sometimes they might have some extra things there, but yeah, the focus is that. And as always, I will also go through, visit the booths, do a tour around it. This year I'd like to actually have maybe a guided tour if anybody from Raw Thrills or the other companies is willing to be on camera and be like, hey, this is what this is and such and such. We'll see if we can get any of that going on. But the 2 big releases that are happening with Raw Thrills are Godzilla Kaiju Wars Deluxe and Jackpot Racer. Now, these games we have already covered on the blog as well if you're looking for more information. And I got a customer here. Hey, how's it going? Okay. Here you are. You're welcome. Thank you. But what Godzilla Kaiju Wars DX is a non-VR version of that popular Godzilla Kaiju Wars VR game. But what's very interesting to me about it is that they've doubled the amount of content that it has. So the VR version has about 15, 16 minutes worth of content, whereas this version has around like 30 to 35 minutes, somewhere around there. And so that's going to be cool to see. I'll film what I can of that and be posting it to the channel. And Then Jackpot Racer is a game designed just for ticket redemption. It does have a non-redemption mode, but otherwise it's essentially Superbikes 3 that's been distilled down into a redemption-like experience. Now, for those who maybe are somewhat familiar with the arcade industry, I know usually what is said about it these days. Oh, they're kiddie casinos, because it's all about tickets and ticket redemption. Now, here at Arcade Heroes, we do try our best to focus more on video games and not redemption stuff, but it becomes kind of impossible because almost everybody, including like Raw Thrills, which is, you could call them like the #1 manufacturer in the industry these days, even they are making redemption type games, but they're still trying to do like their own take on it, like say a video game take on a redemption game. I like to call them videmption games, but so redemption games always have to be very simple. You can't have a very complex, really long redemption game, otherwise kids won't play it. And so it has to be very simple. Oftentimes the gameplay is just dumb. It's like drop the ball through the hole, whoop-de-doo, or push the coins over the edge, stuff like that. But you know, there's a lot of people out there that find that fun. Personally, not me. But so Jackpot Racer, again, it's not quite as long on the races as, say, Superbikes 3 is. The races are about 1 minute 15 seconds on average, and there's 4 tracks. And the whole goal is you have this computer-controlled, I guess you could call it AI-controlled, Jackpot Racer. It's like a ghost in the game. If you beat that, you win the ticket jackpot. If not, you win some tickets, but you don't win as much as whatever the jackpot is. And so that's Jackpot Racer. Yeah, and so those are the 2 major ones that Raw Thrills will have. They also will have a new software edition of Angry Birds Boom. That's another redemption game they have. Wizard of Oz, another redemption game that they have. Is you can see the trend here. Even Raw Thrills is really leaning into it. They'll have NBA Superstars, which I don't know that does tickets, so I think that's just video, but that should have new content to it. And then they'll also have Top Gun Maverick, which launched it was debuted last year, but it started production this year. You might have played it out there. And actually, Betson's hired a Tom Cruise lookalike comedian guy who will be at IAAPA to be acting like Tom Cruise there, so maybe we'll have to get some photos with him. Yeah, that is Raw Thrills and Betson there. What future game am I most excited about? I am excited about this Godzilla non-VR version. As I've said before, I've not been big on the VR trend. Part of it is just as an arcade operator, I haven't found that very appealing just because A, the price is really, really high to get into, and then B, maintaining it. VR games break down a lot, and when a game's not working, it's not making money. And so I also don't really care for games where you're charging like $5, or I've even heard of people charging upwards of $10 for Godzilla. It's just like, that doesn't sit well with me. And so like here at my arcade, the most I've ever charged was when I had the Star Wars Battle Pod, and I started at like $2.50 because that was a $35,000 game. Now, keep in mind, these VR games are usually in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. So part of the reason why some of these prices are so high is to try and cover the base of just cover the cost of the game. But still, it's like, that just doesn't, I guess you could say, or as the kids say these days, doesn't vibe with me very well. Now, as Ted points out in the chat, this Godzilla version, I don't know exactly the price, but it's also still going to be pretty pricey. Before the pandemic, most games that were of this size were in the range of around $12,000 to $15,000. These days, they're twice that, and that still sucks as an arcade operator to try and get into, because it just takes longer for the game to pay itself off. And like I said, I don't like charging a lot. But that one interests me. There's another one we'll touch here in a moment, the Storm Racer 2, I'm finding very intriguing. I guess that'll be a question I should answer at the end, but I'll keep it in mind. Next up is Touch Magics, and oh, by the way, the reason why we have put these advertisers in this categorization or this order is just based on how long they've been advertising with us as opposed to alphabetical. So Raw Thrills has been supporting us the longest, and then Touch Magics. Now, Touch Magics is one company that they started off doing some video games and more redemption type stuff, but with this show, they're actually pulling away from that pretty hard with these 3 new games. Now, they still do have some redemption games, like they have a Minions Bullseye Mania ball toss or dart toss sort of game. But these 3 new ones are all pure mechanical stuff. And so you have Treasure Chest, which was actually at IAAPA last year. You're dropping steel pinballs through these hoops that are constantly moving and trying to fill up the field to win tickets. There's Pickleball Toss, which when I first heard about this, I thought it was like pickleball, the popular sport, but it's more the carnival style pickleball. And then Boxed Up, which is a merchandiser, as we call it, like Keymaster and S-Cube and those other ones out there where you can win an actual prize out of a machine instantly if you're lucky. That's what a merchandiser is. And so, yeah. But sorry, just catching up on the chat here. Yeah, I also it would be nice if there was like a third option for Godzilla without the motion, because that would reduce the price. I wouldn't mind that myself. And an environmental version, like a non-motion environmental version, would be good by me, because like there's Halo Fireteam Raven out there which did that for a while. Spooky Pinball will not be at the show, so that's one thing that I don't care for much on Spooky Pinball. They unfortunately just ignore arcade industry shows completely. They will go to pinball shows because that's where most of their customer base is, although I do think they are missing out on capturing more of the operator market. Sure, pinball is not a big seller for arcades like it used to be, but still there are plenty out there that still buy the machines. And it's like, I saw the Beetlejuice trailer, and that looks pretty innovative. Same thing with Evil Dead Pinball, which is what Spooky does. But still, it's just like, it sucks when they're not there. And so, sorry, just catching up on more chats. So hospitality industry is suffering across the board. How do these manufacturers survive and justify these prices that are killing their own customer base? Well, it's a good question. I know there have been some manufacturers that have had to lower the price, and there will be one that I'll be covering here in a moment, where they have some pretty competitive prices. But it's like, yeah, as me, it was just, like I said, a mom and pop style arcade operator. I don't have millions of dollars. I don't even have $1 million to go. No, I don't even have $500,000 to go with. And as I mentioned on the live stream that I did yesterday, I'm really considering options as to what to do with the future of my arcade here, because things have been pretty slow. Now, I'm in a weird situation where I have a giant FEC, a family entertainment center, down the hall from me. They're locally owned, but they have millions of dollars. They have a big arcade, like they have the Godzilla VR, and they have the Fast and Furious Deluxe with the 2 screens and the motion base and all that stuff, and like 2 of those is $50,000, and it's like, I just can't really afford that, not without getting into massive amounts of debt. So I'm looking at options as to what to do, and that I don't want to close, and so I'm trying to find ways to keep going, but it's like that still is an option out there. But all that aside, it's like when it comes to getting new equipment, what I've found is that's usually the best way to keep your business open, is getting new equipment, because it's something fresh and it brings people in, and it will keep them coming back, hopefully. And once it pays itself off, then it's just profit for your arcade. I mean, I've had some great games that have paid themselves off very quickly, and then they're helping keep the doors open, like Jurassic Park Arcade by Raw Thrills, Cruise and Blast, Maximum Tune 5DX by Bandai Namco. Those are 3 great examples. Any air hockey table is usually along those lines. But it's like, yeah, it's very hard for somebody like me to be making brand new game purchases very frequently. Oftentimes we'll look at used stuff. Now, of course, used doesn't help a manufacturer stay open. So, yeah, they have to come up with some great games that a lot of people will buy. Now, there are some places out there that are doing well, And I think it's those that help keep these manufacturers going. But it's like I said, I would like to see pricing come down. I do understand to a degree that there's a lot of different factors that go into the high prices, such as inflation, tariffs. I mean, inflation's really been the biggest one out of everything, especially when there were all those massive shipping delays and like how much things were being charged for shipping containers back in 2021. Just had this ripple effect, and it still kind of lingers a little bit. But like just inflation itself is just, it hasn't, nothing's really deflated as far as that goes, and that's probably another conversation to have. But it's like that makes it hard to pull back, and that's sometimes why you see manufacturers maybe simplifying stuff. Say like Jack Pocket Racer, like the hardware here uses some design ideas from Superbikes 3. Sure, they did make some changes, like inside the bike. Hi, how's it going? But, they didn't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, which would be a lot more expensive to do. So, yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't expect to see Cruise and Blast there. Although, as far as I know, it's still in production. So, yeah, but that's also where, oh yeah, that's right. Blaster's Pin, you mentioned Papa Shot. I think I forgot to put that on the preview here, so I'll have to go back and add that afterwards, because I'm pretty sure they're going to be at the show. The Papa Shot recently at a Las Vegas trade show, they did debut a new arcade or coin-operated Papa Shot Elite, as they call it, that has like a video backboard on it and stuff. And they showed off a new football tossing game, but I don't know if that was for coin-operated commercial use or not. But anyways, yeah. I've heard good things about it. I've heard a lot of places have picked one up. I wanted to grab one because that is one of those that was pretty affordable when I heard the price. And so, from what I asked Orbit Games, American Pinball, they said that they weren't coming to IAAPA, or at least they weren't going to have product at IAAPA. There might be a distributor out there that brought something, but I haven't heard of anybody that would. But American themselves, they were at IAAPA 2024, but they're not at IAAPA 2025, unfortunately. So that's why they're not on the list. All right, next up is Wallop. So this is a Chinese company. They've been around, I think, since 1990, and they've been growing slowly over the years. And what's interesting about this game, I mentioned this is one of those games that I'm interested in, Storm Racer 2. When they came out with the first Storm Racer, I remember there's a friend of the site, his name is Kevin Williams. He's been a consultant in the arcade amusement industry for many, many years. He's provided a lot of news and scoops to the site. He's a friend, and he also worked for Disney Imagineering for a time, and he very, very experienced, very knowledgeable. But I remember back in, I think it was 2011, 2012, around there, when Wallop debuted with the first Storm Racer. He said it was the first time he had seen a Chinese manufacturer design a game that had the same level of quality as something like you would expect in Japan, and he called it the China's Space Invaders moment, as in, for the Japanese game industry, it did exist before Space Invaders, but it was when Space Invaders came along that's what changed everything. And so he considered the first Storm Racer to be that. Now, obviously, Storm Racer didn't have the same cultural effect as Space Invaders, but really since that time, Chinese manufacturers have really been increasing their output, also improving their quality. They've been making a lot more plays into the North American market, European markets, and all that. But like Storm Racer 2 does look pretty cool, and what I like about this is the one thing that's bugged me about the dual TV, dual monitor design that Raw Thrills came up with on Fast and Furious Arcade back in 2023 was the giant black seam in the middle there. Now with giant 85-inch screens, or there's even 75-inch screens, you can just turn those on their side and there you go. You don't need a seam. It gets kind of the same effect. Now really these sorts of designs are a little bit more for spectators than the person playing the game, because like you play Fast and Furious Arcade, you're never looking up at the top screen. You're always looking at the one screen that's right in front of you. But with this one, I guess where there's no seam, it's just be focused on the car itself. I mean, it does seem like this space down here below is a little bit wasted, but I don't know. I'll have to try it myself and see. And that is another thing that I'm very curious about because I've not heard a price on Storm Racer 2 yet. Now, the other surprising thing about this is that, as far as I know, none of the other manufacturers out there have picked up Storm Racer 2 for official North American distribution. And that's something that usually happens, is like usually, as we're going to get into, Sega and LEI Games and even Bandai Namco will oftentimes pick up a game that was produced by a Chinese manufacturer. They'll add some additional polish to it, and then they'll sell it as under their name in a certain territory. And that's happened for a lot of games that Wallop recently showed off at another trade show called GTI Asia China, which happened in September. But I've been very surprised that so far I've not heard of anybody picking up Storm Racer 2, so not sure. At least it'll be at their booth, and maybe it'll be at somebody else's booth as a surprise, and then we'll find out what the price is for sure. My guess is somewhere in the $20,000 range, but I don't know. We'll see. But they will also have a game called Phantom Vanguard, which is a light gun game that has 2 screens that are vertically oriented and a unique light gun that you can mount as well as dismount, and it changes how the gun behaves depending on whether it's mounted or dismounted. Yeah, Storm Rider X also looks interesting, but according to the list that I saw, it's not coming to the show. Now again, that doesn't mean that it won't be there. I guess I should throw that out. This is all to the best of our knowledge that we've been able to gather, but 'cause sometimes there are weird things that happen, like say shipping problems causes a game to not show up, or some game shows up that they just wanted to surprise everybody with. Raw Thrills did that a lot back in the day. They haven't really done it in recent times, but like if you look on the channel back IAAPA 2017, when I was covering the Super Mario, was it Mushroom World, I think it was. The game was never released, but we had no idea it was going to be there. I just showed up there, and there it was. And so sometimes that happens. But I'd also like to check out Storm Rider X, which, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about there, think this game here, but with a motorcycle, swivel bike, motion base, but same kind of screen setup and all that. But they'll have Phantom Vanguard, which I'm looking forward. That's another one that I am looking forward to checking out, seeing if it's any good. Cyber Hoop Basketball, which is another one of those basketball arcade machines that has a video backboard. It's really just a TV that's been mounted vertically behind plexiglass. Monster i3 Unite, which is an upright version of Monster i3. What's a little strange about this being at the show is that LAIA Games will have Kaiju Rampage, which is the same thing as Monster i3, just under that different name at their booth. So we'll have 2 different versions of this same game at the show. One at the Wallop booth, one at the LAI Games booth. And then they'll have some games that we've seen before. Oh yeah, by the way, all these games that are in bold, these are like the first time they've appeared in North America as far as I'm aware. And so other games that are not bolded, then we've seen them before. So like Asphalt Moto Blitz DX, Getter Spin D, maybe I should have bolded that one. I don't think that one's been seen before. Biograb, a Crane Machine, and Pit Stop. All right, next up is Allen 1, where they are actually based out of where I'm at. They're out of Utah, and so that's allowed me to get some scoops and do some things for them as well. I did not get to go out to their factory and see this new Liquid Death, which is based on the Soda Slam concept, where you pull the tap back and it fills the cup, and you're supposed to try and get it to the top without spilling. I actually have an unbranded Soda Slam here from Allen 1 sitting right there that you can kind of see. But there's also going to be a Dr. Pepper Soda Slam at the show, which will be at the AVS Companies booth, whereas this Liquid Death will be at the Allen 1 booth. AVS Companies is 1918. They actually have several different people there. I guess we should have maybe done just a segment on them. But anyways, Allen 1 will have Liquid Death. It'll be the debut of that game there. Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, a merchandiser called Cosmic Spin, and I believe one called Booty Spin, which is based on the Butts on Things license. They'll also have those new Butts on Things cranes. I had never heard of Butts on Things until they told me about it, but I guess it's like an Instagram artist who does like little cartoony drawings of normal everyday items, like things, pieces of food and other things, and puts little butts on them. But they've actually created like rubber ducky style toys that are like 3D versions of these actual drawings. And so I could see that being popular. They also have brought the Atari Pong coffee table back in conjunction with Eunice. But this will be the non-coin home version. That will be there. And then there's going to be Gravatar Recharged and Missile Command Recharged there at their booth. I am interested to see how they're going to fit this all in, because they only have a 10 by 20 booth, 20-foot booth space, which is kind of small. And so they've got a lot of these games. They're actually not in the arcade area, so if you're interested in seeing them, they're at booth number 3417, which is in the rides and equipment area. It's not super far from the arcade area, but why is it that IAAPA sometimes will put these companies out there? It's because it's based on seniority. The longer you've been going to IAAPA, the better booth space that you get. But a lot of times, if the games and arcade area is already filled out, then they just put you somewhere else. Personally, I think they should just expand the arcade area and include everybody there, but oh, okay, Getter Spin is at the P1AG booth. Okay, that's good to know as well, so I did not realize that. Thank you, Iman. But we do have a thing about Player One Amusement Group further down here that we'll be discussing. Soda Slam's been doing okay, but unfortunately, just my arcade has not been doing as great as it has been in the past lately. And so the past couple of months have been a little bit rough, and that's the time that I've had Soda Slam. So it hasn't probably been the best time for this to be testing here, because we haven't been at the top of our game. And part of that's due to the slowdown in movies, because we have a movie theater here, an IMAX screen, and where people aren't coming out to see movies because Hollywood isn't putting out anything really good, it's affecting our business too. But it's been doing okay. I do imagine it's like I'd prefer to have the Dr. Pepper version or even the Liquid Death version here, because I do think that would do better. But I haven't even seen the Dr. Pepper or Liquid Death versions in person yet. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to drive out to the factory that they have here in Utah. It's like 45 minutes away, and I've been busy. All right, next up is Blue Motion Games, where they are also at the Player One Amusement Group booth. Player One Amusement Group is a distributor. They were recently acquired by Genda, is that how I think you pronounce it? A Japanese company which has been seeing explosive growth. They're the ones that bought all the Sega arcade locations in Japan, renamed into Gigo, and they've been also making a lot of plays into North America, as well as with locations. Like they have a Kittleton brand and such, and I also think they've been getting into Europe as well. And so at the Player One Amusement Group, you will have a variety of different games. Last year they had wrestlers show up, and so I actually decided to stand in line, because it's like, I probably won't ever get a chance to meet these guys. Anyways, I haven't watched wrestling since I was like a kid, back when it was really popular. But I remember, Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker and all that stuff, and Hulk Hogan was there, and so I did get to meet him. He's dead now, so rest in peace. But got a picture with him and the other guys that were there. So they were at the Player One Amusement Group booth last year. This year we'll have Desert Chase by Blue Motion Games, but some other stuff. We will get more into Player One Amusement Group here in a little bit. But Desert Chase, this appeared at Amusement Expo, which is a trade show in Las Vegas every March, and in a 4-player model, along with a Cannonball Jam game, which is also a 4-player game. But now they're debuting the smaller, more affordable model, the 2-player there. But as far as I know, that's the only one that they're going to have. From what they said, unless I misread it, they're not bringing the 2-player version of Cannonball Jam to that. But this is a light gun game. It's not a redemption game. So it has force feedback guns. It has the motion seats. It has wind effects. And you're playing a game that's kind of like a Mad Max sort of thing going on there. So, yeah. Genda. Okay. I thought so, but it's like for some reason I've studied Japanese before. I took Japanese in high school, and I've studied it outside that sometimes. But sometimes I get my head mixed up in how I'm supposed to pronounce things. So thank you for that correction. All right. Now, so those are the advertisers for Arcade Heroes. Again, thanks to those companies that help support us. I have been in talks with somebody else, but I haven't seen the email going through to get that finalized, so we'll see, hopefully soon. But it's always very appreciated, because unfortunately doing this stuff takes a lot of time, and there's other costs associated with the site that don't make it free, even though we're just a little niche site. Really, we're not like an IGN or Polygon or Time Extension or anything like that. All right, so now the rest of these ones that we're going to cover there, it's all alphabetized. Ace Amusement, so out of the Chinese manufacturers, there's a ton of them out there. But I would say there's 3 that really stand out because they just keep showing up, and they've been producing content for a while. They've been getting better at it. And so like Wall Up was already mentioned. Eunice is another one that's pretty well known. And then I would say Ace Amusement is number 3, because their games have been grabbed by a lot of different companies. As I talked about just a few minutes ago, how there's a lot of companies that will pick up equipment from Chinese manufacturers. Ace has probably been the one that's gotten their stuff picked up the most. And so like companies like Coastal Amusements or Amusement Source International both grab a lot of their games. And also, like I said, their games have been improving in quality over time. I mean, sure, there's still a game here and there that needs some work and needs some polish, but again, they've been getting better. And so they're at booth 1329, and for their own booth, they're going to have this game here called Biker's Madness, which is a dual screen motorcycle racing game. They have a fishing game called Crossbow Fishing, where you have this crossbow-like controller, and you basically are spearing fish and reeling them in. It was at GTI Asia China. Dragon Kingdom, which is a kind of like a Godzilla-like game, but also there's a game called Draken's Realm Keepers. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear this kid screaming here for some reason. We're going to have a game to talk about that's about screaming kids here in a little bit. But Dragon Kingdom, it's like a light gun, mounted gun shooter game with huge screen space and shooting dragons as far as I know. Racing Extreme DX, and then these games, Rush and Catch and Ace Shooter, were at IAAPA last year. I think I have video of them on my channel, particularly Rush and Catch. But keep in mind, there will be other Ace games at other booths, including one we'll get into in a moment. Adrenaline Amusements, this company is based out of Canada, Toronto, I think. And they have 2 booth spaces, 1615 and 1815. Actually, I think that might be a mistake. It might be 1818. At least I thought it was 1818. I have to double check that. But they're very quiet on social media for whatever reason. They do have some social media channels. They just update them kind of like whenever they feel like it, which is not very consistent or very often. And so we haven't seen anything other than there was another distributor called Schaefer Distributing, which did release a preview of equipment. And they did have some hints as to what will be there. But we're just not 100% sure. But the most surprising thing that was on the Schaefer list is Back to the Future. Now, we have no idea, is this a video game? Is it a redemption game? It is a mechanical redemption game? It is a coin pusher? Is it a whack-a-mole or a whacker style game? No clue. I really hope it's a video game, because as somebody who grew up in the 80s, you know, back when Back to the Future was, you know, everybody who talked about it, everybody knew what it was. Good memories. And recently there was the 40th anniversary of it. I do find it weird that Adrenaline didn't take the opportunity of the 40th anniversary, which just happened like a week or two ago, to announce the game. It seems like a missed opportunity there. But I guess we'll find out here in a few days what it is exactly. They also have mentioned Angry Birds. Now, they have had this Angry Birds Whacker game, which again is like a whack-a-mole game out. I don't know if that's this or if it's referring to something else that's Angry Birds. Last year, there was a company called DOF Robotics, which did debut the Angry Birds Fury Road Racing video game. However, as far as I know, that still hasn't been released. And so maybe they picked that up. I don't know. It's also worth mentioning that earlier this year on the site, we covered how Adrenaline did have Hot Wheels Victory Lap at Dave & Buster's on location test, but we've heard nothing about this game, so I have no idea if it'll be there too. We'll see. Either way, hopefully it's more exciting than when they debuted last year with Duck Derby, which is a fun little game, but it's, you know, it's a redemption game where it's like a carnival midway style game where it's over in 10 seconds or less. So that was a little bit disappointing to me. I mean, it was cool to have a water pump and actual water and all that, but otherwise I was kind of hoping for more out of them. So, oh yeah, and on Ace Amusements, there are some other games that they recently showed off, which for some reason they didn't announce as coming to the show. I mean, maybe they'll have a surprise and they'll be there, but from what we know at the moment, like they have this game called Hover Rush, which uses hovercraft, and it almost looks like H2 Overdrive a little bit, but with hovercraft. As Ted also points out in the chat, sorry, I'm burping here from having soda, but I do need to. I'm already feeling my voice going out. But yeah, the Angry Birds was marked as new on the Schaefer list, so that's where we're thinking it might not be the Whacker game, it might be something else. So we'll find out soon enough. Amusement Source International. So this is a company run by Corey Haynes. He used to be the CEO of GameWorks, I think back in the 2010s. And after that, he's created his own company which specializes in importing games, usually from China, but sometimes from other sources, and make sure that they're all localized and sells them here into the States at pretty competitive prices. And so they are actually repping some Ace Amusement product, including what you see on the screen here, Wild Hunting, which is really the first time we'll have seen a game that's directly challenging Big Buck Hunter by Raw Thrills, like the first time in like since 2006. Hi. Yeah.
How can I return that we didn't use it? Oh, can we use those coins or do we put money?
On the ones outside?
Yeah.
No, those
Oh,
use
okay.
quarters. But if you want some quarters, I can do that.
Yes, please.
Okay. Like, how much in quarters do you want?
All of it.
Oh, all of it? Let me see.
It's like you won't even see like the 2 seconds on game.
Right.
I was thinking of taking it from my old nieces and nephews. Wait.
Looks like you got $7 worth. So there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, sorry about that. We got Wild Hunting, which again, this is a video game that's challenging Big Buck Hunter, which has been dominating the scene really since it came out on video hunting games. Sega did have their tournament hunting, or extreme hunting, I think it was called, back in like 2006, 2007. But that's really it for people trying to do a hunting-like game. But what's interesting is they have both a 2-player and a 4-player version, so we'll see. But you know, it's a pretty hard hill to climb in dethroning the king of Big Buck Hunter. So we'll see how that goes. But Amusement Source, they have 3 booths and they have a ton of games that are coming. Now, they are one of those where once they did have a game that was supposed to debut, this Rooster and Bro 2DX was supposed to debut, I think, at Amusement Expo in Vegas earlier this year, and it didn't because of shipping, or it might have been IAAPA last year. But as you can see, they have quite a list. Now, most of it is redemption stuff, but for video things like Balloon Fest, which is kind of like a twist on the Soda Slam concept, where you're filling balloons instead of filling up drinks. You could also compare that to Icy Slush Rush. Icy Slush Rush and Soda Slam are actually based on Perfect Pour, which came first. It was the seed of the idea of filling the drinks like that tapper style. But Balloon Fest is at least an innovative or creative variation on the idea. Let's see, those are redemption. Coin Snap is a new vending machine. Fortune Zombie is a video game or redemption game with mounted guns. Looks like cutesy style zombies, so it's not like Resident Evil style, but more like Iceman probably. And then the rest of these are pretty much redemption. There's one called Pinball Storm that was on their list, but from the photo it didn't look at all like a pinball machine, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe it has flippers inside of it. It has a video screen in it, but otherwise it looks very much just like a standard redemption game, but I'm not 100% sure. Hi. How can I help you? All 10? Okay. There's $5. You're welcome. And there's 10. Thanks. All right. Let's see. Trick Pong is a new variation on those kind of beer pong type games with video screen. The Case Pro is actually a game that or it's not a game, it's a vending machine. It vends phone cases, but you can upload any photo that you want to it, and so that way you get your own custom case. And so this is actually up for the IAAPA Brass Ring Award. There's several games that potentially could win the IAAPA Brass Ring Award. It's a pretty prestigious award. And like last year, I remember Alan One got that for their Asteroids Recharged game. And then there was that Kung Fu Panda VR game at the AVS Companies booth, which got second place. Now, there's a lot more categories for the Brass Ring than just games. But those are the ones that I pay attention to, and that's what I remember. Yeah, so those are... that's what they've got. Oh, yeah, Rooster and Bro 2DX is coming to this show. It's a video redemption game. Sounds like it's kind of silly. Same thing with the Fortune Zombie. I guess it's got a humorous edge to it. And then Skull of Shadow, they're going to have 2 versions of it. One is going to be a 3-player version that we've seen before, but then the other one that they will have is a 2-player environmental cabinet, which has not been seen in the States yet. So, but what's interesting about Skull of Shadow, and I mentioned this before on the other live stream, is it portrays itself like Dead Storm Pirates, but when you play the game, it's actually more like Jumanji. And so it's a little strange like that. But, you know, still, it's actually Ace's most polished game that I've played. And so I won't knock him for that. All right, and Miro, USA. And so most of the time in the arcade video side of things, the attention that's placed on Andamiro comes from the Pump It Up community, where there's that dance game that's been around for a long time. It had been the only competitor to DDR for the longest time, up until Step Maniacs came along. But I haven't heard anything about a new Pump It Up coming along. I'm sure it'll be there. I haven't heard any confirmation on that. But also the Team Infinity, who I believe are the ones that work on Pump It Up, I've actually been busy working on this right here. And so Andamiro, they're mainly known, aside from Pump It Up, they're known for doing a lot of redemption games, crane machines, stuff like that. They're not very well known for making racing games, but they've taken a console version of, I think it's called Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3, and they've made changes to it. I don't know the extent of the changes. Obviously, they have to change enough because there's just lots of elements that go into console games that don't work for an arcade game, and turned it into this. And so this is going to be going on testing pretty soon, so it's not 100% finished. This cabinet is probably not 100% either. Anytime you see anything prototype in the arcade industry, don't make the judgment that that's final. It may change between here and production. But as you can see from the screen here, it's got a lot of Nickelodeon characters on it, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 2012 series, SpongeBob SquarePants, Invader Zim. It has Garfield. I didn't realize until I saw the trailer for this that Garfield was under the Nickelodeon umbrella. And some others that you probably are familiar with if you watch Nickelodeon. Me being in my 40s, I haven't watched Nickelodeon in a long time, but and my kids don't really seem to be into it either. But other games that Andamiro will have, they'll have Marksman, as we covered in the Andamiro preview, which is a light gun shooting gallery game. They have a new SpongeBob Swish. Like, you can always make a safe assumption that Andamiro will always have something new that's related to SpongeBob at IAAPA, because they almost always unveil one or even two new games that use the SpongeBob license. So this is like a self-contained mini basketball game. So you Pump It Up Phoenix, Star Wars, and Spider-Man Coin Pushers. So that'll be from Redemption. Here's another Chinese company called Arker Amusement, where they were at IAAPA Expo Europe, and they had their game Dance Show, which is basically like My DX, but with a hexagonal type screen as opposed to a circular one. And so it doesn't quite look like a front-loading washing machine like My does. But be interesting to see the play that they're making there. Granted, they've got a battle ahead because My DX, by all accounts that I've heard, has been selling pretty well out there, and so it sounds like Sega's pretty happy with how that's been going so far. Now, Bandai Namco Amusement America, which I'm not sure when this is happening, but they should be changing the name to Bandai Namco Experiences. But it wasn't until this week that we really found out what it is that they're bringing to the show. And now last year they had a pretty impressive booth. They had Goldstorm Pirates, they had Taika no Tatsujin, they had plenty of Pac-Man stuff. I guess one thing that I always have to bring up about Bandai Namco, like if you're going to IAAPA for the first time and you're walking around the Bandai Namco area, you'll notice that they have Raw Thrills games and they have Adrenaline games. You're like, why do these guys have non-Namco games here? Well, that's because the Bandai Namco booth at IAAPA also has Bandai Namco Amusements Europe there. Amusements Europe also functions as a distributor across Europe and I believe the Middle East. And now IAAPA is a very international show. You have buyers flying in from all over the planet there. And so the purpose of the booth is to get sales on these games. And with this particular booth, that's why you get a mixture, because Bandai Namco represents companies like Raw Thrills and Adrenaline overseas. And that saves Raw Thrills or Adrenaline the headache of having to handle the sales. So that's why. But anyways, one of their highlights at the booth will be this Speed Rider 4DX, which was designed by IGS, and I think it was Baohui, another Chinese company. Impressive looking motorcycle racing arcade game. Has a camera system, wind effects, realistic motorbike controller. What's really interesting about this one is that this has the first ever sliding mechanic where you can actually slide the physical bike controller. Like, it has this drift mechanic built into it, and it slides, and that activates the drift. And it's on top of a motion base. Now, the motion base has been done with motorcycle games before, but still this sliding mechanic is a new thing. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to turn out. Now, one thing to also point out here that we do mention in the post is that by all accounts that I have heard, Resident Evil 2 Deadshot will not be there, and that's because this is still a bit early on its production cycle, or development cycle, sorry. and from the sounds of it, it's not going to be released until later in 2026. I wouldn't be surprised. They haven't confirmed this or anything. My gut feeling is that they're trying to aim for like October 2026. That would make sense, Resident Evil during Halloween month. Yeah. And so that's why they're not showing it now, because at IAAPA you usually don't want to bring equipment to the show that you can't sell yet, and so that's where, for the most part, these games are either ready to sell or they're very close to production. There are some games that may still be a month or two away from production, but that's still close enough that you don't want to miss the opportunity to get some buyers to place some pre-orders. So pre-order in the arcade industry is a little bit more complex and expensive than a pre-order in the home console industry. But yes, so I guess I'll disappoint anybody now. If you were hoping to see Resident Evil at the show, I would be absolutely shocked to see it there, because by every indicator that I've been told, unless they're head fakes, which I don't believe they are, it's not going to be there. But they are going to have a lot of other games. In fact, they're going to have, I was a little bit surprised by what it is that they're bringing to the show. And so we do have an IAAPA preview. I think, okay, yeah, you guys are seeing my screen. So here on arcadeheroes.com, a lot of this stuff we've also covered in like these specific posts, such as the Bandai Namco preview, where it has stuff like the Speed Rider 40X, but I'm surprised to see them picking up these Chinese-made games such as The Future. I do find it curious that it says Warframe on there. I don't think that it's a Warframe arcade game. Maybe it's using the same engine. I don't know. But it doesn't look like it. I mean, granted, I haven't played Warframe in several years, but still. And they also have this Mini World motion game, where Mini World is basically Minecraft, Chinese Minecraft, by my understanding. So it's like an actual console game or PC game that exists over there. But this is a light gun shooter, kid-friendly, has a motion base. It actually has 3 guns in it instead of 2. And so a bit surprising to see that. There's also this Pac-Man Junior Baller, or Baller Junior, which is made for kids. Pac-Man Bistro, which is the Pac-Man Pixel Bash, which has 31 Namco classic arcade games on it. And then they'll also have things like Taiko no Tatsujin, Goldstorm Pirates will be there, and then a lot of their redemption games, Crab Rush, Tower Island, Ball Madness, Jumpin' Jupiter, etc. Let me check the chat. Where are the space combat games? Ha! Well, they're in somebody's mind, I guess, somewhere where somebody wants to do them. But yeah, we haven't had a space combat game in the arcade industry in, I remember there was like a real-time strategy top-down type space game that Namco did like in 2006. Yeah, other than that, I can't think of something where it's like a yoke controller or a joystick controller. I'd love to have one myself. I don't know if it would make any money. I guess that's the problem. So it's like kind of to the comment of somebody that was complaining on the Resident Evil video, where they were saying, well, every arcade games shouldn't exist. Everything should come to consoles. It makes no sense to have exclusives, is their brilliant argument. But it's like, the reason we get the games that we get is because this is what earns. All these companies have been around doing this for decades. They have people who study this stuff. They do sales projections. And I do know that at Sega, somebody had wanted to do a space combat game at one point, but I guess the sales team couldn't find a way to justify that it would work. I mean, sure, there might be something that comes out and it does unexpectedly well, but you have to prove that to the sales team, because it's like, these games do cost millions of dollars to develop in most instances, and it's a big risk. Like, do you want to spend $4 or $5 million on developing a space game that nobody will buy? Probably not, because like one bad game could sink a company. So you have to be careful. So it's like, do I want one? Yes, absolutely. I love space combat games. But would one sell? I guess somebody would have to try one out, and if it does really well, then yeah, we would probably start seeing some more space combat games. But my guess is it'd have to be something like Top Gun Maverick or something like that, where it's not something where you can fly around in any direction. It'd be like on rails, essentially. Kind of like the, what was that Konami one from 97, 98? Not Solar Storm. I can't remember, but it was like Gradius in 3D. But I mean, yeah, sometimes there are space levels in games like the Transformers Shadows Rising did have a space level, and it looked really cool too. But yeah. When do I think Tattoo Assassins and Martial Masters will be shown off at the Exa booth? Not this year. I can say that much, unfortunately. So sometime next year. They've got a lot of fighters in the roster. Well, I'll get to them in a minute, though. Yeah, Solar Assault, that's what it was. Yeah, I'd love to see a Solar Assault game, but somebody basically has to prove, like, if somebody made a Solar Assault-like game with new graphics and put it in the arcade and it tested out super well and it made as much money as Jurassic Park did, then sure, we would see them. But outside of that, it's going to be a hard one, unfortunately. But I want to believe, to quote X-Files, that one can work. Now, I guess there are space-themed redemption games, but I don't know how many in chat are really into redemption games. Kind of like myself, where I kind of don't care. I cover them, but they're not my focus. Speaking of redemption, we have Baytech Entertainment, where they have 3 new titles that are going to debut at the show. I've seen little photos of them, but nothing really close up. There's one called Nailed It, where I can't remember exactly what that's supposed to work, how that's supposed to work. Perfect Pump, which is like a gas pump type game. Again, these are all redemption or redemption. Dip and Dots Drop, a little bit of a tongue twister if you're not careful. I think this is kind of a reskinned quick drop game. That's a super popular redemption game where you push the button and the balls fall through and you have to get 50 into the moving holes before the timer runs out. So I think it's essentially quick drop but branded with Dippin' Dots. And then so a little while ago, Baytech purchased or acquired the company that does the Hypergrid VR stations, or I think maybe it was Hyperdeck or something like that. Maybe I miswrote it there. But they will debut a new zombie shooter called Rotten Dead at the show. Wasn't sure if the customer wanted to ask a question there. But if you know my opinion on VR, oh boy, another zombie shooter. Yay. Icy Slush Rush will be there. Again, that one's been in production, or it's been available to the industry since April, I believe. But that one is up for an IAAPA Brass Ring Award. And then apparently the SpongeBob Dynamic Duo VR system has some kind of upgrade. I don't know if that means content or new hardware, what that is exactly, but that will be there. Coastal Amusements, or sorry, let me check the chat here. I see Jason posted something. Okay, yeah, you've seen them there. So yeah, Baytech, they usually test stuff out there in Wisconsin. They have been testing a game called Forklift Frenzy. By what I've heard indicated, they are not bringing it to the show, but we'll wait and see. Back in the past, Baytech would always bring prototypes to the show, and so there was always something new, like several games that were new. Hey. Sure. Sure. Art? Go ahead. All right, there you go. You're welcome. Not a problem. Thanks for getting rid of it. So yeah, Baytech used to do that, but they've stopped doing that in recent years because, like I said, the focus seems to be more on showing stuff that you can sell right now as opposed to gauging interest in a game. Coastal Amusements. We didn't know what they were bringing to the show until right before we hit publish on this post. Let me zoom in here because I know that's impossible. This next to impossible to see, but I mean, Coastal always has quite a selection of stuff available, and this time is no different. These bolded ones are brand new games that we've not seen before. So you have All Star Golf, which is designed by Ace Amusements, is a redemption game. A new kiddie ride, merchandiser and prize pusher with the Justice League theming. They have one called Sports Legend, which in the Replay magazine preview, it wasn't clear if this is a video game, a redemption game, or if it's a redemption game. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds like you can choose between, I think it was baseball, basketball, and soccer, and then play that sport or something. So, be interesting to see, mainly if it's a video game, in my opinion. Zombie Invaders, which is a new redemption game, and then Wild West Shootout 2 was at IAAPA last year, but it got delayed mainly due to all the U.S.-China tussle, I guess you could call that, that's been going on since the show last year. The Hot Wheels Ultimate Speedway game is also up for an IAAPA Brass Ring Award, but that's been shipping for a little while. This one, we did a whole post on this with lots of details, so if you want to read about this here, but I'm very curious to see this one, or these two games, sorry. Dark Escape Games is a newcomer. They're going to be at the AVS Company's booth, which, again, I believe is 1918. But what they are doing are these innovative 5-minute escape rooms, which are about the size of an environmental deluxe cabinet. So like think Jurassic Park Arcade or Walking Dead Arcade or House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn size. And so you go into them and it has the puzzle. All of the objects are tied down with like airline cable, I think they said, something along those lines, like real high quality steel cables. And you have to solve the mystery in 5 minutes to escape and win the game. If not, then you can try again, I guess, after you pay more. But pretty innovative idea. We'll see how it works in practice. But from what they told me, Sean Tyler from Dark Escape Games told me is they've been testing Clown around and that it's been doing pretty well on tests. And they didn't have anybody steal or break anything. So that's always good too. And apparently they were testing at a FEC, so yeah. ELOT Group, so this is 3 companies really. You got Benchmark Games International, Coast to Coast Entertainment, which mainly does cranes, and then ELOT themselves. And we usually don't cover them outside of trade shows just because they don't really do video games at all. They mainly do crane machines, coin pushers. Now, their crane machines and their coin pushers do exceptionally well on the market. Usually they're considered the top of the line with those. They do come with higher price tags, but they earn really, really well. They do sometimes branch out into other things like basketball games, air hockey games. Like I actually just got a few weeks ago a Funky Beats air hockey table by Benchmark Games. I actually need to follow up with them at the show because I've been having some issues with it as far as the pricing goes because it's not working according to how the manual says it should work. And they said they were going to get back to me on that. But they have this new eClaw 2.0, which is also up for an IAAPA Brass Ring Award. Looks like it has a full HD video display built into it. Lots of LED lights, stuff like that. They have a new Ticket Boxer, a new Smurfs Gold Champs game, some kind of new shuffleboard game. I don't know if this is one that Valley Dynamo is going to be promoting as well. And then a game called Slam Dunk and Fun Zone Mini, which, as I recall, is a crane machine. All right, somebody was asking about exa-Arcadia, so here we are, exa-Arcadia. Now, they've bounced around a little bit as to where their position is. Like, sometimes there are certain manufacturers who always have the same booth every year, same size. Like, Betson's kind of one of those where you can always kind of find it in the same spot. Sega's often like that, too. But exa-Arcadia, they've bounced around. And this year, they're in a totally different spot than they've ever been, where they're in the lower left-hand corner, like the southwest corner of the whole convention center. And so it's over by, there's like this Perky's Pizza, which is always in that corner area. That will be there. They're across from, I think, a really big crane company. and across from Techway, which is also usually in that corner too. But there are, unfortunately, I do know of some games that they will have that they will debut at the show, but we weren't given the green light because they wanted to announce them on X first. So I will update this as soon as they announce that, and we'll also do a preview post on exa-Arcadia. I was just hoping to get that out before we got to this, but I didn't want to delay the entire thing to wait for whenever it is that they would get to that. But still, there are some other games that they will have there. They'll have their ARC-32 cabinets. They're going to have a 4-player version of the ARC-32. They'll have the trackball there as well. And then they'll have a bunch of games spread across these things. That's the nice thing about their system, since you can have 4 games per cabinet. They'll have these, but you'll have Asuka 120% Burning Fest Excellence, the fighting game, which also I believe is shipping out soon. Axel City 2, the Final Storm, which just started shipping out. Chaos Code Next, which also just started shipping out. Cyber Blocker R, which uses the trackball. It's kind of like Arkanoid. Demon Bride X again. Hunter x Hunter, and then Impact. This is the first time we'll get a chance to play that. That's already shipping. Jitsu Squad featuring the Samurai Pizza Cats, and Vanguard Princess R. Like I said, there are 3 games that other games that we'll update this as soon as we can with this, but very interesting to see what the reactions. One is a beat 'em up game. One is a run and gun game. The other one is a kind of boxing game, I guess. So we'll see how that goes. But to that question about those particular games like Martial Masters and Tattoo Assassins and Rabbit and Fallen Angels and all that stuff, my best guess is sometime next year. But I mean, maybe if I get lucky, be able to play a prototype of one of those. I don't know. It depends on what they bring. I mean, in previous years, X has been kind enough to allow me to play a game that they don't announce. Like last year, I got to play a game that still hasn't been announced. I don't know what's going on with it. I'll have to ask them about it. But got to play a very early version of that. So it would be cool to play an early version of Tattoo Assassins, but that might not be available for everybody else to play. And I do have Jitsu Squad featuring Samurai Pizza Cats, which is a great game. You can find footage of that on the channel here if you'd like. There's candy. But yeah, whether or not they'll have any other things out there, it'll probably just be unannounced stuff or maybe early versions of those games. But it'll be cool to see the 4-player version of the ARC-32. I'm curious how they're going to do that, since 4-player candy cabinets are not very common in Japan. It's usually 1 or 2 players, like versus style. Maybe they'll do like a versus style sort of thing. Next up is Ice Games, based out of Buffalo, New York. And these guys have been around since 1982. They're the creators of the Bubble Hockey games. They're usually focused on redemption style games. Quarters, let me see if I got them. Yeah. There you go. Thank you. But this that you see on the screen now, this is the big game that's debuting for ICE, is Odin's Hammer Strike, which apparently has been testing pretty well. It was on the cover of Replay magazine, as you see here, and there's a story about it in there where it says it's been doing really, really well. It looks like kind of like a carnival game where you just take that Thor's hammer and smash it as hard as you can on the button. And then they'd have like NBA Baller and Eon Bowling Smash and Win. Whether or not they'd have any surprises, I don't know. I would assume they would be promoting those if they did. But they're also not one that usually has video games. Sometimes they do. There was, I think, IAAPA 2022 or 23, they had Racecraft. They decided not to carry the game, which was too bad, but that was just a pure video racing game. It didn't have redemption. Yeah, and ICE has usually done some other games like air hockey games. I have a couple of their NBA hoops. Their games earn really well, so operators usually like ICE. Or like if you're somebody who's looking at getting into the industry, ICE is a great company to look at just because their products are well they have a well-deserved reputation because they perform so well. Yeah, Racecraft was a weird one. I'll never understand that. Now, here's one that's a little bit of a surprise. Incredible Technologies. So they're the creators of Golden Tee. And Golden Tee is one of those games, like I mentioned in the comment to somebody, no idea if they're watching or not, but Golden Tee is a game that sells over 10,000 units consistently. And now, yes, a lot of that's to bars, but still, a sale's a sale. And they usually don't go to IAAPA. Usually they'll go to like Amusement Expo in Vegas, but not this one. Hi, how's it going? We use tokens, and they're 4 tokens for $1, and the games are between 1 to 4 tokens each per person. You can use cash or card. Okay. $20? Okay. All right, here you go. You're welcome. Thank you. It's nice to be getting a little bit of business here with how slow it's been the rest of this week. Yeah, so Incredible Technologies actually has 2 new games that they're debuting at this show, and that in itself is a surprise as well, because they just don't reveal new games very often. You know, they usually will do a new version of Golden Tee every year, and that's kind of it. Once in a while, they'll release something else like Arcade Collection, but yeah, they just don't do new stuff all the time because they don't really need to. They kind of just live off of Golden Tee. It's the golden goose, and you know, if it's working, you don't need to replace it with something else. But I always do appreciate when they do try something else, because it's like not everywhere wants to have Golden Tee either. But so they've been promoting this. I did have to laugh that they misspelled IAAPA. I do see a lot of people misspell IAAPA, where they do 2 P's instead of 2 A's. Although I guess what was funny to me was, like, I saw a Chinese manufacturer. It's like oftentimes you'll see English show up with Chinese manufacturers, and they misspell things. But in this instance, you have the American company misspelling IAAPA, but the Chinese company spelling it right. So just a stupid, amusing thing to myself. But whatever this is, I don't know. It could be a new version of Silver Strike Bowling, which is their bowling game that they've had around for a long time. Or it could be something for bowling alleys, like the Touch Magics, who I mentioned earlier. They have a projection mapping system that can be installed into any bowling alley and instantly upgrades it into like a mixed reality sort of thing. Adds more to it. Kubica AMF, I also think, has their own projection mapping system that's available. So it could be that, or it could be, like I said, Silver Strike Bowling, just a proper video arcade game. Now, that's not the only thing that Incredible Technologies is going to have, because apparently at the AVS Companies booth, 1918, there is some other new product from Incredible Tech that's going to be there. Now, maybe that's a head fake and it's really just Golden Tee PGA Tour 2026, or it's something new entirely. I don't know. So we'll wait and see. Jizzy Jack Pinball. So getting into pinball, as I mentioned earlier with Spooky Pinball, most pinball companies kind of ignore IAAPA. Now, I guess I say that, but then it's like Jersey Jack and Stern both pay attention to IAAPA. However, Jersey Jack, they used to attend other industry trade shows like Amusement Expo, but I think as they saw that most of their buyers were home users, they stopped really attending most of the shows. They've even missed IAAPA a few times. But they are going to be there this year. Last year, they debuted with, as you see on the screen here, with this Pinball XP system, which they built in conjunction with a company called Creative Works. But I've not heard anything about that since. Yes, somebody did buy that from the show, which is pretty common. Where the show always has almost everything sells off the show floor. But I haven't heard of any places getting this. It was designed for FEC's Family Entertainment Centers, and it seemed like a cool system. It was their alternative to the Stern Insider Connected, but I heard it cost something like $100,000. So it's like, that's not for me. Especially where it's, you know, kind of a support system to existing products. But this should be the first time that I get a chance to play a Harry Potter, because I've not come across that. I didn't get a chance to go to Pinball Expo. It wasn't at the Portland Retro Game Expo that I did attend, and so I'll get to try that finally. But I would not expect Jersey Jack to be unveiling a new game here at IAAPA, because they just don't. Pinball companies rarely use trade shows to unveil new product. Aside from, like I said, Pinball XP, and they did that at IAAPA because that whole system was focused on FECs like Dave & Buster's, trying to get them to buy pinball machines. But again, I don't know how well that worked out for them. Jet Games USA, and so this is a name that's really been moving up there. It's been on our radar quite a bit since I think it was 2023 when they showed up with Mega Shot, or sorry, it was Quick Shot, and then they did Big Shot and Mega Shot, where they had very realistic metal guns. They were like AR-15 style guns, all supported through an air compressor for very realistic feedback. They had real gun scopes on them, so you could look through them. You weren't looking into like an LCD screen inside the gun like Silent Scope. You were looking at the screen in front of you using an actual gun scope. So that was pretty cool. And so at this event, they are going to have Giga Shot. Now, it's our assumption, we don't know this for sure, because I did hear from GTI Asia China that Jet Games had picked up this game called Flamestone Cannon, where, as you can see, kind of see here, let me zoom in. See that giant gun on the side? Like, that's a full metal force feedback cannon, like an artillery cannon sort of thing, powered by an air compressor, and each player has one. So it's our assumption that this is what Giga Shot is. There's a chance it couldn't be, that maybe Giga Shot's just like an enormous 100-inch screen or something, and it uses the regular rifles, and then they'll have Flamestone Cannon as well. But again, I did hear from somebody else in the industry that that Jet had picked this game up. But that often happens with games that companies pick up from China, where they'll just change the name and change some other things about it. Now, they'll also have a game called G.I. Joe. So maybe this is something they turn into G.I. Joe. I don't know. Although I don't remember a lot of heavy artillery stuff happening in G.I. Joe, but it's been a long time since I watched that. But they'll also have Mega Shot Deluxe, Jet Darts, and their Big Six Crane. Probably have some kiddie rides too. They're pretty big into that. No idea if they'll have that Talking Tom Endless Runner game that they showed at a couple of shows like Amusement Expo and Bowl Expo. We'll see. Don't know if anybody's still watching here. All I see is my chat. But let's see. Calcamat IGPM Group. They've got boxing machines. So they got this new one that debuted at IAAPA Expo Europe called Boxer TV, which I'm guessing is just a video screen on the boxing machine. They have their standard boxers, Kaboom and Flash, which I think were at IAAPA last year. And then there's this one, Power Slap, which they've shown on and off a few times, but it just keeps not being available. And thanks, Jason. And but I guess since it's here, maybe they finally figured out the licensing. Power Slap, I guess, is a show on the video site Rumble. I looked it up back when they first showed this off, and it's a sort of bizarre game where two people stand in front of each other and slap the other one as hard as they can in the face, and if you knock the other person out, you win. And so I guess I'd rather do this version than the real version. I assume that they're winning money out of this if they can withstand getting slapped by a person as hard as they can, but yeah. LAI Games. So they will have 3 booth spaces once again. Like last year, they had a huge booth space. And this time, I also believe from what I remember looking at the map, they did as well. 231, 237, and 431. Now, one of the booth spaces last year was taken up by the Seasons crane machines. I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the same thing this year. But the big thing that they're going to debut this time is their it's their pseudo sequel to the Virtual Rabbids game, the Ubisoft All-Star VR. And so, as you can see here, very impressive setup. Uses, is that the DPVR headsets, if I'm recalling correctly. But unlike Virtual Rabbids, this has an actual controller. And so that controller will work either as a steering wheel or as a light gun, depending on what the scenario within the ride scene is needing. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the stream. But also this wall here, I guess it's kind of hard to show. This is just obviously a CG render that you're seeing on the curved wall back there, but that's a 17.6 foot size micro LED billboard, and so slightly curved, and so that's very impressive from what I saw of it at IAAPA Expo Europe, where it debuted. Pretty cool. Not sure how this one's been performing on tests. I'm not 100% sure if it's shipping yet. I think it is shipping out soon, but another unique thing about this compared to Virtual Rabbids is you can connect two of them and have 4 players at once. And yes, you get to pick from different Ubisoft characters, although I did see the news yesterday. Ubisoft was supposed to publish their earnings, and they've delayed that, which is usually not a good sign. And so I guess we'll see if Ubisoft still exists by the time IAAPA's over, or if they'll be sold to like Tencent or somebody. Or who is it that owns Candy Crush? Or, somebody like that will probably buy them up. Because Ubisoft's not been doing too great in recent times. But regardless, even an arcade game can still operate just fine and earn just fine outside of things like that are going on in the world. So that's why sometimes you'll get arcade games about a movie, let's say like Back to the Future, when it's not necessarily relevant anymore, but it can still earn just fine. Or like Terminator Salvation, the arcade game came out like a year or two after the movie did, and it did great, even though the movie bombed. And so, yeah, it's not always... it doesn't always mean something, like if something's not doing well on the home side of things. But, and a lot of that I think can come down to the cabinet and such, gameplay, all that stuff. But for confirmed games at LAI, you have Cube Clash, which is a pusher game. Last year they did so many pushers, I was a little shocked. I was like, it feels like you guys are doing too many pushers at once. Maybe you should just do one at a time. But I don't know, maybe they all worked out really well. Hopefully they did. I don't wish poor business on anybody in this industry. I want to see everybody thrive. So I try to be a fan of everybody, but at the same time try and maintain some neutral objectivity if I can. I know that's really hard to do. But Hypergrid is an attraction that uses like LED tiles on both the floor and on the walls, as I recall. I think this is from a company out in India. And so they'll be debuting that there, and that will be a big attraction for FECs. The Kaiju Rampage Unite, which again is like the it's the Kaiju Rampage game, but for 4 players and in an upright format. I think it's like a 65-inch screen, 4 controllers instead of 2. And so that's always a little interesting to have a 4-player light gun game. I think somebody earlier on was asking about the light gun game, so that's one. And it's also known as Monster Eye 3 Unite. Phantom Vanguard, this is another one which, let me find our LAI preview here. How's it going? Yeah, it's just at the end of the desk here. Just right at the end of the desk. There we go. Let me zoom out. So yeah, Phantom Vanguard, this is one of those games that I am really looking forward to. I'm partially curious to see how the gun mechanic works, because like I said, when you put it into the mount, it acts as heavy artillery. If you take it out of the mount, it acts as a machine gun. So that's an innovative little twist, but also like the 2 screens like that. And then it's like something like kind of like Call of Duty. I mean, sure, it's not Call of Duty, I'm sure if you did Call of Duty in this exact same format, that would probably do really well, just because Call of Duty is one of those games that just has legs. People know it. People still buy it and play it and all that. But something that's Call of Duty adjacent, a modern warfare, modern combat type thing, you could probably do well, maybe. So I am very curious to see how that will shake out. Also, they'll have Cyberpunk 2077 Turf Wars, as that's up for an IAAPA Brass Ring Award. And so be interesting to see that, because the last time I saw it was in Vegas, which was an early version of it, a pre-production version. So be curious to see what changes they've made to it. Leon Amusement, they are a Chinese company. They'll have their own booth. They're the ones that create the stuff like the Flamestone Cannon and the Mega Shot and all that. But they're apparently going to have Dragon Knight there. So stay tuned for that, but don't have much else to say there. Finally, we're to Player One Amusement Group, also known as P1AG. And so this company, they're a distributor based out of Canada. Like I said, last year they did have a new product, like a merchandiser product with different MMA fighters and wrestlers that were all branded to that specific wrestler. But since they've been purchased by Genda, that Japanese company, it seems like there's some changes going on. And so they will have Genda's Japanese crane focus on there, such as Kittleton. They're also going to have a crane called Tri-Catch there. They'll have, this was a surprise, they're going to have this Naruto emblem battle, which previously didn't seem like there was any way you could really get a hold of this unless you were like Round 1 USA or you were really well connected to somebody at Marvelous. Because they were only wanting to sell this on a revenue share model, which is where you wouldn't actually buy the machine, you would get it from Marvelous, and then you would split the revenues or something along those lines. But this is a simplified game, maybe a little bit more complex than your typical redemption game, but not as complex as your typical video arcade game. But you would play these battles and win these cards, and you could collect them and use them in the game and such. But I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, because it did sound like we had somebody from Player One here. But he could speak if there's anything else that we're missing. I guess while I wait to see if there's any mention in the chat about that. One thing that I don't know about is Konami. Because last year at IAAPA, when I was walking around, I kept having people say, hey, did you know that there were a couple of Konami guys here? And they were walking around talking to people. And I was like, no, I haven't seen them. And I never came across them. Okay, the Kittleton cranes, since the prizes are IP. Okay, so you have IP-based prizes. That's cool. And so, yeah, if you're looking for crane machines, which are a popular item, especially lately where there have been a lot more clockades popping up out there, then you can also check out. Okay, so the rev share thing also exists for Kittleton. That's good to know. Do you guys do the capsules, capsule machines with Kittleton or not? Sorry, I got a customer here. They take tokens, but they're the same cost as quarters. So like 4 tokens for $1. And then the games are between 1 to 4 tokens each. Yeah. Yeah, and then the games themselves will say how much they need. But as I was saying with Konami, so I learned earlier this year that Konami was talking with various different distributors, and they were handing out price lists to these distributors. Now, they weren't for public consumption. That's why I didn't like broadcast it online or anything. But I saw, in talking with the distributor, I saw that there was a list that did exist. I guess it had ETAs on shipping, it had pricing and all that stuff, but it had pretty much everything that Konami is producing. But by what I know, Konami does not have a booth at the show. I was wondering if they might be hooking up with Player One Amusement Group, but I'm guessing no. Don't know if they will have anybody else, but the odd thing about it is that it sounded like Konami was aiming to start shipping stuff in January. And so it seems like if you really wanted to make a splash in the North American market, you would want to be at IAAPA. but maybe they have a different strategy. I don't know. I mean, sometimes Japanese companies do have strange strategies as to how they go about things, but I don't know how that always works out, because sometimes the strategy that works in Japan doesn't work in North America, but it depends on the product. But just reading from the chat here from somebody who does work at Player One Amusement Group, mentions, yes, mini prizes. We're coming out with Stranger Things lines of prizes. Cool. And there's an app for the Kittleton cranes where you can update how many prizes you've collected from each IP. Oh, that's interesting to add a mobile app element to that. I could see how that could incentivize people to keep playing cranes. We need more mobile app stuff like that for arcades. And I guess in thinking about that, like Alan One has one. They call it MLES, and so like you can log into games like Soda Slam, Missile Command, Gravatar, saves your score. If somebody beats your score, it lets you know. And so it's like Stern Insider connected, but for video arcade games. And so it's like I've been surprised that companies like Raw Thrills or Sega hasn't had an app like that over the years. So. Sorry, just reading the chat here. Don't have any more drink, so. But, okay, so Konami, I guess they have sold out their stuff. And so, like, that is one strategy. Is like, if you talk with, one reason to use distributors is because they have clients. And a good salesperson at a distributor will know what their client wants. And so, like, if a company like Konami comes and says, hey, we want to sell DDR, but we don't want to really broadcast it out there. We want to see if you have clients that want to buy this stuff. They're like, oh, yeah, sure. I know this client or that client that would love to buy this or that game. And so that can get, that product, like DDR product, into different locations that aren't Round 1 USA. But part of the reason this also comes to the forefront is Konami's been testing a lot of new games at Round 1 USA, as we've been covering on the blog, such as Contraburst Arcade and Super Punch Mania and other stuff like that. Yes, it would be cool for EXA to get a license for Mortal Kombat. I agree. But the problem is that Warner Brothers is notoriously difficult to work with on licensing, and they're incredibly greedy. And so I've talked with multiple people over the years about Mortal Kombat in particular, and people who have actually tried say like the license for it is a minimum $1 million. And the problem is that when you get a license like that, and you're just covering that cost, that doesn't cover all the other development and production costs, you're going to be several $1 million into it at that point. Now, for a fighting game, that's really hard to pull off at a price that operators would want to buy, because especially with fighting games, like, just to be honest with everybody, I know a lot of people in the fighting game community hate to hear this, but there is a bad stigma attached to fighting games, and that's because operators like myself have been screwed so many times. I've told the story about how I got screwed over on Street Fighter IV. I won't repeat it here, but it's happened to many other people in this industry, and we don't like getting bent over, and I'll try and avoid using colorful metaphors. I'm sure YouTube wouldn't like that either, but let's just say we don't like getting bent over and raked over the coals, will be the nice way to say it, on where it's like I have to pay $10,000 or I have to pay $15,000 to get a fighting game that then gets released to the game consoles, and then nobody plays it anymore at the arcade because they just play it at home. And so that's happened too many times, and that would probably happen with something like Mortal Kombat. And so unless it could be guaranteed to stay arcade exclusive and be sold for a reasonable price, just unfortunately isn't going to happen. Maybe one day, maybe after Warner Bros. Gets sold, because I know they're trying to find a buyer, and maybe those people actually know what they have, because like that's the other problem with Warner Brothers. They have no idea that they're sitting on, such great IP, like all the Midway, all the Williams, all the Atari Games stuff. It's like people often are confused about that. It's like, what happened to Joust or San Francisco Rush 2049 or Area 51? It's all owned by Warner Brothers. But when it comes to them licensing stuff out, they all treat it the same because they have no idea. It's usually probably just like somebody who isn't even a gamer is looking at that stuff. It's probably just like a lawyer or something. And it's like, well, $1 million to license Primal Rage or something. It's like, that just makes no sense. And so that's pretty much why you've not seen anything out of Warner other than Mortal Kombat over the years. It's like, yeah, they did Gauntlet. That was it. Aside from that, in Mortal Kombat, I think. And there was the Midway Arcade Treasures that existed way back on the original Xbox and PS2. But, that's been it. And again, that's because it's all owned by a giant mega corporation where they don't even know. It's like, this is a real story. Sony had no idea that they owned Q*bert for the longest time until one day the creator of Q*bert, Warren Davis, was at, I think, CES or something, and he went to the Sony booth and he was talking with them and he's like, hey, do you guys know that you own Q*bert? And they're like, no, we don't own Q*bert. And after they did some checking, they found out that actually, yeah, indeed they do own Q*bert. So same thing with Warner Brothers. It's like they have no idea that they have Primal Rage and Gauntlet and Area 51 and Narc and all that stuff that existed. So that's why you don't see it. Anyways, sorry, that was a big tangent. Because I spent too much time talking, I'm just going to blaze through some of these. Like Rylix, they're a VR company. I haven't heard of anything that they're bringing new to the show. Maybe this dual coaster thing that was at Amusement Expo. Maybe they'd have some new license to it. Sega Amusements International. This is the time for me to talk a lot more. So, haha. But they'll be at booth 1006. And they got a lot of products to show off. Obviously, they will have MyMyDX there, which has, from all accounts that I've been hearing, it's been selling really well and it's been performing really well on locations out there. Yeah, they probably have no idea that they have any of those games. They probably wouldn't know them at all. If you were to talk with a lawyer at Warner Brothers, they'd be like, what's that? Mace the Dark Age? Is that... Thank you. So yeah, that's the thing that sucks with some of these big companies that own all that stuff. But anyways, on Sega, I won't get into all the corporate stuff behind them. I will say, once again, rest in peace, Paul Williams. He was the CEO of Sega Amusements. He recently passed away. They just held his funeral services, I think, last week. But Sega still has all the people that have been working under Paul are there. And so it looks like they're working on bringing a lot of great stuff to the show. They're going to have the standard version of Apex Rebels. Let me put this in non-potato quality. They have the new Daytona Championship USA Motion Edition. Let me scroll back here on that. So we did a story about this recently. It's basically the same new season software of the game, but in this new colorful cabinet. So somebody joking on our Discord about Skittles. So very bright, very vibrant colors going on there. But has a motion base, air compressor powered motion base. If you haven't played the new season version of Daytona Championship USA, I'd say give it a shot because it did improve the handling, it improved the graphics, all that stuff. If you played this the software of Daytona Championship USA before that, then yeah, it did have some problems that needed to get corrected and all that. But Sega will also have High Five tickets. They'll have the single version of Hypercross, a new merchandiser, Key Magic, which is basically a new version of Keymaster, the Minicube Prize World, which is a sort of hybrid of cranes and merchandisers all connected together, or that you can connect together and set up however you like it. They'll have On Target, which I accidentally put on there twice. They'll have Put It Party, which was just over here. Which this looks innovative. I'm looking forward to giving this a try. It's obviously a redemption sort of game, but it's like mixing skee ball and putting golf together. And so you're putting to get into the target holes there. And so you can link up to 6 of these. They actually come as 2 in 1. So I guess I should say you can link up 3 of them to get up to 6 players. And so let me see. Oh, thank you, Iman. I appreciate that. So definitely look forward to seeing all of you. hopefully I'll get my voice back and I won't talk too much after this. Save it up for later. But that's always the problem when I do these. How's it going? Let's see. Sega also will have Simon Arcade. Let's see here. So it's a ball toss game with the Simon Says, or the Simon toy from Hasbro license on it. So the second time that Sega's done a toy as an arcade machine. Interesting way for them to do that. I was expecting, when I first heard about a Simon Arcade game, I thought it was going to be like the Bop It game, where it would have like giant Simon controllers or something, but ball toss instead. We'll see how that goes. And then they'll have several other games that we've seen before. Now, here's one that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream where it's like, on one hand, this is a clever idea. As you might have heard earlier, I don't know if it was picked up on the mic, but we had screaming kids. Usually arcades get screaming kids in them, unless they're like bars where kids aren't allowed. But this game, I just don't know how many arcades would want to incentivize screaming kids, but that's what this game called Scream and Win does. And so, as you can see, there's a giant ear, and the point of this is to scream as loud as you can to get the meter up to 1,000 to win the ticket bonus. Yeah, and you can have 2 players. So my youngest, who sometimes likes to scream and be a bit loud, would probably enjoy this one. But if arcades get this, I can't imagine they would put it anywhere near the desk. But it's like, that's the risk that I could see here. Is it's like, even though it's a clever idea, and it's voice activated, kind of like the Beetlejuice pinball is voice activated. Incentivizing loud screaming in an arcade. I mean, I don't know, maybe it siphons off that aggression or like a boxing machine would. I don't know, but I'm interested to see. Oh, this is by Smart Industries, by the way. Generally, they do crane machines. They do have a new merchandiser called Kerplop, which I guess is kind of like a crane / merchandiser from the little image I saw of it. They have a new version of JJ Bot, which has an LED billboard topper, and then some other crane machines that will be there. But yeah, the AI stuff on it, it's kind of like, okay. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be a big hit. Step Revolution, the creators of Step Maniacs, will be there. No clue if they'll have something new. I think it was last year they did show off a new version of the standard Step Maniacs, where it had like a 55-inch screen, a slightly bigger screen with an LED trim around it. I've heard about one other thing, but I have no idea how it's moving. That other thing wouldn't have moved forward at this point for them to bring it to the show. But yeah, be interesting to see if they did have something else. Back to pinball, and I think this is the last time we'll be mentioning pinball in this stream, is Stern Pinball will be there. Now, they almost never mention what it is that they're going to have at these shows. You could just assume that their latest stuff that's in production will be there, such as Star Wars Fall of the Empire, which I did get to play at the Portland show. It was kind of basic, I think it would be good for a beginner on that, but I did a long rant on this, I think both in video and on the blog, as to why I'm just like, why Star Wars again? It's like 4 times in 7 years. Just seems like they're not, they could have done a lot of other IP, because it's like, you don't have to use an IP that's relevant. I already talked about this. It's like, they could have done Babylon 5, which is getting a reboot soon anyways, or Stargate SG-1, or something like that. That would probably be just as relevant and could employ similar ideas with it, I would think, or maybe new cool ideas, other than doing another Star Wars game. But, I mean, that aside, it was okay, fun for me, but it's not something that I would be like, oh, I got to get this for my arcade. But I did hear of one arcade down in Arizona where they said it was making crazy good money, but that was like on the first weekend where it arrived. So, don't know. And you can't really take one arcade's word for that as for the general industry either. I hope that they have The Walking Dead remastered there, but it's happened in the past where Stern has announced a game pretty close to IAAPA and they don't bring it because maybe sometimes it's more just for their uh, home consumers as opposed to the others. I think this is on the next page. Yeah. But I don't feel like this one is being targeted just at the collectors, so I'm pretty sure this will be there. Just, again, I don't know for sure. But hopefully so I could give it a try, get some footage of it. But again, it's pinball, so I would not expect a brand new announcement to be showing up there. If it did, I'd be floored and I'll eat crow. Wonder where that phrase came from. Team Play will be there. Last year they had a new version of their Pix Place photo booth. They also had an early prototype for that Candy Forge Redemption game. But now they're going to have Who You Gonna Call? Ghostbusters Will. And so this is the evolution of their will concept that they did with Carnival Will. To me, it looks like this doesn't actually have moving panels. It's just static panels, but, working like a display, it makes it, all of them are animated and stuff. By the way, Team Play is actually made up of mostly ex-Midway employees. So like guys that worked at Midway in the 80s and the 90s. And like I think the founder of Team Play, he was like a big higher up at Midway back in the 80s, 90s era. And he has like a lot of information on Midway from back in the day. And so, if you're curious as to what some of the Midway guys are doing, like some of them went to Raw Thrills, some of them went to Team Play, but they aren't really focused on doing video games. Once in a blue moon, they'll do a video game like they did Family Guy Bowling, but they haven't done just a pure video game in a while. Trio Tech. So they've been touting, according to a LinkedIn post, they said that they have an industry-changing press conference, so pretty big promise there, setting up some lofty expectations, and they're going to launch 3 new products at the show. Now, I haven't heard what these are. I have to assume that the 2-player Super Blaster is one of them, but also to sort of temper the expectations, Trio Tech usually focuses on big attractions, and like when I say big, I'm talking like roller coasters. Like here in Utah where I'm at, there's a theme park, a locally owned theme park called Lagoon. It's actually got some interesting history. Like Nolan Bushnell worked there before he moved to California and founded Atari. But when he was going to college, he worked at Lagoon. And I've been there many times because it's like the only theme park in the Salt Lake City area, like within the region. But anyways, Trio Tech designed a brand new big roller coaster for them that's an interactive roller coaster, like something you'd expect to find at Disney or Universal theme parks. And it was pretty cool. I really liked it. So it's very possible that they could have something that's like a theme park level attraction that they would be showing off here as opposed to something like for arcades. Now, if it is something that's for arcades and it is a game changer, great. I'll accept that. I mean, Trio Tech, that's how they did get started. They got started with like games like Wasteland Racers, which was the first 420p racing game. It was like the first HD screen racing game. And of course there was the Mad Wave Motion Theater and the Typhoon Motion Theater, all that stuff. But sorry, just checking on the chat here. So we'll see what it is. You can make a guess, place your bets as to what it is that Trio Tech will announce. It's going to change the industry. By the way, they also have 2 very large booths. Now, the booth space for Trio Tech usually is large because they are focused on these giant, massive attractions like the XD Dark Ride and stuff like that. So it could be something like that too. It's usually not full of games, but we'll see. Unico USA will be there. They're on the map as Hong Kong U Media Limited. They were a little bit hard to find last year because they were in just a weird random spot on the eastern side of the convention center. And they're also in kind of a random spot this time. They're in the water parks area at booth 2850. I haven't seen them announcing exactly what they would have at IAAPA, but I guess they would have this. So they've been doing like the Nova Blast cabinets where it's like a tabletop metal candy cabinet that they designed themselves. And then it also has like this base where you can turn it into a full arcade machine. They do have JAMA wiring harnesses built into them, or maybe it was JVS, I can't remember. Or I think they had something where you could switch it out. So you could run these in an arcade, but they are a little bit smaller. They're not like arcade 1-up size, but they're also not exactly like a full arcade, like a Raw Thrills or Sega sized arcade machine there. But because this is the game that they're touting on their Facebook page most recently, this is what I assume they'd have there, but don't know for certain. Now, Unis, the Chinese company Unis, they're also one of the biggest manufacturers out of China. Oftentimes, the one thing that's maybe a little bit frustrating about them is they produce an awful lot of content, and so sometimes there's games that they will show at an event like IAAPA once, and then you'll never see it again. So, like, there was the Crazy Taxi game that they showed off a few years ago, and that was one where, yeah, it was like I saw it once and I never saw it again. So that might happen with them. I don't know, but they will also have a lot of games that are coming. They also have the exact same size of booths. They have 2 booth spaces, and they're the same size as Triotech. They're either like 30 by 40 feet in size or 40 by 40, probably on the latter. But Unis, since they're not focused on like theater size attractions or roller coaster size attractions, they tend to fill it edge to edge with tons of product. Lots of redemption games, as you're kind of seeing here. They'll have like the Monster Kart DLX. They have the Spin City, which uses those enormous track balls. They're like beach balls or even bigger than beach balls. They'll probably have a whole area dedicated to the emoji games because they have that license, and they've been leaning really hard into that. They've been making a ton of games with the emoji license on them. Even like last year, they had an ice cream machine and a balloon machine and basketball machines, all with emoji branding. This Clip and Win merchandiser, I think it's actually... Okay, so it's for roses or for candy? That's different. The Neon Rush video game, which they also have a single screen version of this. But the Clip and Win, I think I saw that it's actually supposed to be... Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Clip and Win is actually a Brass Ring Award contender. So we shall see on that. But they're also going to have Claw Express Cube Tower and Wall, which is a modular crane sort of merchandising system. Mentioned the Emoji Slam and Clip and Wins. Frankenslam, the new Monster Jet Riders will be there. Spin City, a Space Float. Somebody was asking about space combat games. I guess if you wanted to consider a redemption game, probably a quick coin game as a space combat, I guess you can. I would also like more space games just because my arcade here is called Arcade Galactic. I'd like to lean in a little bit on the space stuff, but there's not a lot of games to do that with. Phone Case Fever, which is apparently their take on the Case Pro like Amusement Source International has. Jeep Rider, which is an interactive video kiddie ride. And then I mentioned those other 2. So Unis will also have a lot of stuff. Neon Rush being one of those that I would expect to... I mean, it was at IAAPA last year. But I need to find out what happened to there was a Carnival light gun game that they had that was kind of like Point Blank. It was at IAAPA last year, and then I haven't seen it again, so I don't know. Maybe it got canceled. And then there was also Dino Strike, I think, where it was a rowing game, and I thought it was really cool. It was actually really well polished, but it was at Amusement Expo, and now I'm not really hearing more about it. There was also on their website a Dino Dash racing game with dinosaurs, but I haven't seen it on the list. Maybe it's there, maybe it isn't. Also, as we mentioned, I think in our Unis coverage, let me pop back over there. So yeah, here's the cabinet for Spin City. Hello. Okay. Sure. There you go. Yeah, any food or drink, please leave it up here. Thank you. That's 80 tokens. Yeah. Please leave the drink up here. Thank you. Here's Monster Jet Riders. But yeah, here's one that's kind of a wild card because we found this on a European distributor website, and but it's not on Unis's website. It's not in any of their coverage. It is mentioned as being a Unis game, but it's called Ski Hero, kind of like a new Alpine racer. But no clue if it's going to be there or not. If so, I'll film it. I'll play it. We'll see. That's Unis. Valley Dynamo, they usually don't have much worth talking about because, it's pool tables, it's air hockey tables. Nothing special there. They have done the jet pong, like the beer pong type video games, which have actually sold fairly well out there from what I know. But apparently they're introducing a new concept in shuffleboard. So they call it a high-tech champion shuffleboard table. So they do own a brand called Champion Shuffleboard, which makes some pretty decent, or not decent, pretty high-quality shuffleboard tables, commercial quality shuffleboard tables. But again, that's not something we usually cover because it's, shuffleboard. What are you going to do with it? But, maybe they have like projection mapping or something like that with this new one. We'll see. It's called Slingshot. And then Yudo Games, so like Yuto, they're a Chinese company. They're another one that just seems to produce an awful lot of content because like I follow them on LinkedIn and I follow them on YouTube, and they're just always posting about new games. It's like every month it feels like they have a new game out. But at IAAPA, they usually don't bring a lot of stuff, probably because it's too expensive to ship all that stuff. But as you can see here, they have this Combat Heroes co-op game, which is a VR game. In the background, they have they have the Crazy Drive, which has been one that they've been touting a lot. Their own, I guess, in-house designed racing game with 2 screens. They also have a single-screen version. And then they also have a game that's going to challenge Big Buck Hunter called Big Beast Hunter. But their version, it's like those high-quality sniper games that have been at shows in recent years where it has like a giant 50 cal recreation. There you go. And so this is like a silent scope sort of thing where it does have an LCD inside of the scope. But it has like hydraulic feedback in it, and it also uses hydraulics to change the height of the gun itself, so you can adjust it to the height that's comfortable to you. But yeah, go hunting with a 50 cal. And actually just looking at this video, one interesting thing about it is sometimes these games have really terrible frame rates that come from these Chinese companies, especially these smaller ones. But this one actually looks like it might be 60 frames a second, at least. Or at least maybe 30 frames a second, I should say. But definitely higher quality looking than their other sniper games they've done in the past. So that's cool. And then for the regular arcade companies, we're almost done here, by the way, in case anybody's getting bored. Zoom Studios and Baron Games, I haven't heard what they're bringing. They usually deal with like crane machines, merchandisers, stuff like that. No video games. They had a new pusher at last year's show. All right, these ones I'm going to just kind of go through it fast. These are immersive experiences. And other attractions, which are kind of arcade adjacent. They might not work for an arcade like mine. They may work for an FEC or a theme park. CreativeWorks is one of those companies that does stuff like that, like Lucky Putt Golf and Limitless VR. But they also have a new attraction that they're not ready to reveal. I guess online is what they mean, but it will be at the show, and it handles 2 to 6 players, and it's inspired by escape room experiences. So now, as I have also mentioned a few times, the output of VR games has greatly diminished from where it was even just a few years ago. Now, that doesn't mean that VR has gone away completely, and that's what we see here. But it's like there was one company that was there last year with a bunch of VR content, and they're nowhere. I think they went out of business. And like they had announced a RoboCop game, and I think that might have got them sued or something for breach of contract for unveiling it too soon. But anyways, Hero Zone VR is one company that's still around. They have a wireless VR arena, and they've announced this Terminator Uprising. And so this is based on the Terminator 2 IP, and that's all we know about it. So it's nice to see something that's not a zombie shooter, instead is a robot zombie shooter, sort of. Maybe it'll have something else to it that's cool, but hopefully I can get a chance to see that. Oftentimes I'm not able to stand in line and play a VR arena game just because the lines are oftentimes very long, and I have so much filming that I have to do that I just don't have time to check it out. But if I can, I will. Hologate will be there. However, they've really pulled back on their social media, and I have no idea what they're bringing to the show. So maybe they'll have one of their VR arenas, but they haven't announced any new games in like 2 years as far as I'm aware, unless I missed something. Kanoa SA, they're actually going to be in a booth right across from Allen 1. I also haven't caught anything new from them, but they had this newer design of their VR foosball game, which we've covered in the past. InnoWise will be there, and so InnoWise did start off doing VR arenas, but then they came up with this immersive reality room concept called Cubics, and it's done very well for them. I know they've installed it at places all over the planet. There's a few in the United States, possibly several, and it also is a multi-game system. And so this game you see right here, The Last Defense, is actually their 9th game that they'll have available for it. And so I have footage of Cubics on my channel. I did miss their new game release last year. I walked by and it's like, oh, I'll come back and I'll get you. But I got so busy that I didn't get a chance to really go back and visit and record that new game getting played. So I think I had to do it at Amusement Expo. But I will commit to finding this and catching people. That's the one problem with multi-game systems is like if you're just walking by and it's like got a line, you just have to film what's being played there. You might not always get a chance to do like the game that they're really promoting. Movie Power is a VR company out of China that often has some simulators that look like they came out of Tron Legacy. Yep, you're welcome. Thank you. But I don't know what they're bringing to IAAPA. There's a company in the first-time exhibitors area, which is in the northeast area of the show, called Multiball, where they have like this ball toss projection mapping system, but they also have like LED walls like you see here where that can be set up outdoors, and whether it's balls you throw at the screen or balls you kick at the screen, they have that. They also have something that in their IAAPA exhibitor description is called Play Count. And it's a compact, fully autonomous pickleball and tennis simulator for all skill levels. So I assume that would be there at their booth. They have a pretty big booth space. Pixel Game USA, they do interactive LED tile games. I think I have one video of them from a previous IAAPA. And then Valomotion, instead of doing anything VR, they usually do what I like to call mixed reality with projection mapping. They have their Valo Arena, 4-player Valo Jump, all that stuff. So yeah, that is our IAAPA preview. I gotta stop talking now. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, like I said, the Godzilla game. Looking forward to maybe I can actually play some Mai this time. And also trying out the Daytona Championship, see how that goes. Putt-It Party is one I'm curious about. Storm Rider 2. The Ubisoft All-Stars VR. Phantom Vanguard is one really curious about. Also this one, whether it's Flamestone Cannon or Gigashot or G.I. Joe, whatever it is, curious to try it out. Harry Potter's, because I'll try everything new pinball. Definitely one of the exa-Arcadia games I'm really looking forward to trying out. I'll just say that it's like Punch-Out, but violent. And so I don't know if anybody can knows of a game out there that's kind of like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And also the run and gun game, because I'm a fan of run and gun games. Yes, I need to play the Daytona theme on my and record it. I thought I was supposed to do that at Amusement Expo, but I didn't get the chance to, because the one problem that I have with rhythm games a lot of the time is that there's fans of those games that are brought to the show, and they'll just kind of hog the machine. Now, granted, I guess they will, I've always come across them where they're nice, and they would step aside and let you play, but at the same time, it's kind of intimidating. Like, if you're not really good at these games, it's like I've never played Mai, so it's like I'd be like a beginner. It's like if I got enough practice, I could be good, but it's like you don't want to look like a doofus in front of good players, right? Get a little bit of social shaming there, but or just I don't want to record myself sucking on a game either. So it's like I usually like to try if I can to play a game a few times, get a good feel for it before I film myself playing. Although sometimes you just don't get the chance, and it's like I film my first play, and if I suck, I suck. If he dies, he dies. But oh yeah, and the Dark Escape games. Really looking forward to giving these a try. And I always like finding surprises. I mean, sure, I am doing spoiler here. Nothing but spoilers here, and I know some manufacturers don't like that. Sorry, but at the same time, it's like I want everybody to know what to expect. So it's like, on one hand, yes, it's great to have surprises, but on the other hand, it's really good to know what to expect, because it's like it's a huge show. If you're not there for 4 days, then you have to be very targeted as to what you're going to do. And like if everything was a surprise, then it makes it really hard to plan and find things that you're interested in playing. Oh yeah, Speed Rider 4DX, I'm really interested in trying out. I am curious about the future in Mini World Motion. I mean, I don't know if those games would be ones that I get for my arcades, but maybe I could be surprised. Maybe they play really well, and it's like, hey, maybe that would be a good thing to have here. Especially Mini World, where given that it's basically like, Minecraft with guns. I guess to be fair, I will play, and I'm interested in trying every single video game that's on the floor, and I'll play those before I'll play anything Redemption. And so it's like even this could be curious about, because it's like this could be something good for my arcade, because I got kids that come around. Interested in seeing how Wild Hunting compares to the likes of Big Buck Hunter. Same thing with Big Beast Hunter. Really curious about Back to the Future. I mean, I'm trying not to have high expectations of that one, but yeah, it's like I'm sure it'll be some sort of stupid Redemption game. But sorry, I know some people in the industry get mad at me for dunking on Redemption, but it's just like I can't help myself. I'm a gamer at heart. And so, like I said, Stormrider 2. Also trying out Liquid Death. Be interested to see how they go with that. So yeah, what do you guys think about this before I close this session? I actually got to go and buy some things for IAAPA here too. So let me know. But yeah, if there's anything you want to do a little more focus on, go to arcadeheroes.com. We got the preview up here that I used. It's public. We have our other previews up here. As I mentioned, as soon as we get a green light on the exa-Arcadia stuff, we'll do a separate post on that, and that'll reveal what those 3 games are. But I guess if nobody has anything else, oops, going into my Discord there. Oh yeah, and you can go to the Arcade Heroes Discord if anybody's curious. So like I will try and share photos on social media. It's just Discord is the easiest one to do for my phone. I guess I should make sure that I'm logged into X, and so that way I can post there. Don't really post much like that on Facebook or LinkedIn and stuff, but also try and remember to do some short videos using my phone from the show and just post them to YouTube directly. That might help as well. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting the site. It's very much appreciated. I also do need to throw out some thank yous to Primetime Amusements as well as Alan One. They're helping on expenses with IAAPA, and so that's part of what goes into these sponsorships is they help us get to these things. And it's like I'd also like to be able to have other Arcade Heroes people be able to cover that. And if there are plenty of other Arcade Heroes readers that are going to be at the show, it's like I know Jason Stark, you're going to be there for part of it. And Ben Blake will be there. Like last year we had NSM and Ben Blake were there, and we played some Taiko no Tatsujin together. It'd be cool to do maybe a little Arcade Heroes get together and stuff. But I guess I'll shut up now so that I can save my voice, so that I don't end up like I did a couple of years ago and I could barely talk anymore. But thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for much more, and go visit your local arcade.